iconic comedy show, the puppet satire Spitting Image was back, but this time he is being mercilessly, ruthlessly mocked.
If I'm going to succeed in America, I need a lifestyle brand of creams and supplements. Gwyneth Paltrow has Goop, Kourtney Kardashian has Poosh, and Jamie Lee Curtis has Poogert. Now I've got mine, Meg Goo, celebrating the sexy earth goddess in all of us.
Things didn't just get under Meghan Markle's skin, they completely pushed her over the edge in a way that felt impossible to hide. This wasn't a quiet reaction or a small moment of irritation. This was full-on anger that exploded fast and loud. The reason behind it all was a savage parody from Spitting Image that didn't just tease her lightly. It went straight for the most sensitive spots without hesitation. They didn't hold back even a little, dragging her ambitions, putting her hunger for attention under a microscope, and calling out the way she constantly stays in the spotlight like she refuses to fade into the background. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't subtle, and it definitely wasn't something she could just shrug off like nothing happened. Now here's where it gets even more intense. Meghan didn't just laugh along or pretend it didn't bother her. She reacted in a way that made it clear this parody hit deep. That puppet version of her wasn't just some harmless joke. It was tearing through everything she's built, from her carefully crafted public image to her highly watched relationship with Prince Harry. This wasn't your usual royal joke that people forget the next day. This felt direct, sharp, and personal. The sketch didn't just throw random jokes, it pulled out moments that already had people talking and pushed them front and center like they wanted everyone to see. It exposed things that looked like they were meant to stay hidden.
No more following Granny's rules. Don't wear your pants on your head, Harry. Don't bath on the butler, Harry. If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that.
Right away, Megs.
Behind layers of PR control and media strategy. For years now, the couple has clearly worked hard to maintain a specific image in the public eye. Every move feels planned, every statement feels measured, and every appearance feels intentional. But the second Spitting Image dropped their brutal parody, that polished image started to shake in a big way. Meghan's reaction wasn't calm or controlled. It came off as dramatic and emotional, and people noticed immediately. It became obvious that she didn't see this as harmless entertainment. The whole situation shifted from comedy into something way more serious, and suddenly everyone was paying attention. When Spitting Image finally showed their version of Meghan Markle, it didn't feel like simple satire anymore. It felt like a full-on takedown that didn't care about holding back. The puppet version of Meghan came in ruthless, exaggerating everything from her push into Hollywood to the tension people believe exists between her and Harry. One scene that really stood out showed Meghan sneaking into a book event hosted by Michelle Obama, acting like her status gave her special access to everything. That moment alone painted a picture that got people talking because it suggested entitlement in a way that was hard to ignore. And then came the part that really made the whole thing explode online. Prince Harry's puppet wasn't treated like royalty at all. Instead of being shown as a respected prince, he came across like someone desperate for relevance, almost like a wannabe actor chasing opportunities. That shift hit hard because it flipped the image people had of him for years. The creators of the show didn't hesitate for even a second. Meghan was portrayed as someone obsessed with fame and control.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
All right, I've finished my clippy. Where it says signature, do I put the royal seal?
That's not necessary, Mr. of Wales. I see here that your previous career was in realty.
Royalty, but it wasn't a career. My wife's got a Netflix empire. Who does?
While Harry looked like he was completely stuck in her shadow, just going along with everything. For someone like Meghan, who is known for controlling her image so carefully, this kind of portrayal clearly hit a nerve. This parody didn't just make jokes, it revealed a version of things that made people uncomfortable because it felt a little too real for some viewers. The idea of a strong and independent figure got pulled apart piece by piece in the sketch. Even though it was exaggerated, it still left people questioning things they hadn't thought about before. That's where the real impact came from. Not just the humor, but the way it made people think and react. Meghan wasn't just shown as a royal anymore. She was portrayed as someone pushing aggressively into celebrity culture, trying to carve out a space in Hollywood no matter what it takes. And it was obvious she didn't find any of it funny. Reports even suggested she wanted an apology, which only made everything louder, because reacting like that doesn't calm things down. It actually makes people look even closer. It showed clearly that the parody didn't just miss, it landed exactly where it was meant to. The sketch didn't just create noise, it pulled the curtain all the way back. It showed a version of Meghan that felt unfiltered, exaggerated, but still sharp enough to leave a lasting impression. And the puppet version of Harry, just as brutal, just as unforgettable, and impossible to ignore. The charming royal image people once admired was completely flipped in this portrayal. Instead of confidence and control, Harry was shown as awkward, unsure, and trying too hard to stay relevant in a world that doesn't revolve around royal titles anymore.
So Pads, tell me, everyone knows you're the bear who likes to share. What's the secret to your eternal personal glow?
Well, Harry, I'm glad you asked me that. As you know, I'm a huge fan of South American product.
Is it Colombian?
No, 100% Peruvian, biodynamic, organic, catastrophic, cocaine.
Yes, I've tried it, and the results were incredible.
One scene made this painfully clear, where Harry awkwardly pitches Meghan for a movie role like he's desperate for a chance. It felt uncomfortable to watch, but it also mirrored that real-life moment when he spoke to a Disney executive about opportunities for Meghan. That moment got turned into comedy gold, but the message behind it hit hard. The puppet version of Harry seems completely unaware of how he comes across. It shows him as someone who doesn't fully understand his position anymore, just moving along while Meghan takes control of everything. The show didn't just joke about his situation, it challenged the entire royal image people used to believe in. Harry's puppet even spends time complaining about being fifth in line to the throne like it's some kind of curse. And that's where the satire cuts even deeper. Because in the sketch, the puppet is aware it's just a puppet, controlled and powerless in someone else's story. That detail hits hard because it reflects how people are starting to interpret things in real life. Meanwhile, Meghan is shown as the one making decisions, controlling moves, and directing everything behind the scenes. It's uncomfortable, it's sharp, and it's the kind of humor that sticks with you. And while it's funny on the surface, it also makes people think twice about what they're actually watching, because underneath all the jokes, there's a deeper message that keeps coming through. If there's one thing this parody absolutely nails, it's the power dynamic between Meghan and Harry. Meghan's puppet isn't just there for laughs, it's there to send a message. She's shown as strategic, always thinking ahead, always planning her next move carefully.
Meghan, this new Netflix show I'm producing for you is going to be huge. Tell Eldon all about it.
It's about a beautiful young swan, but no one treats her like the beautiful swan she is until season 2 when everyone apologizes to her.
Meanwhile, Harry is reduced to someone who just follows along, reacting instead of leading. Every part of the sketch points back to her control. From media strategies to public appearances, everything seems to revolve around Meghan's influence. Harry doesn't look like the one making decisions. He looks like he's just going along with whatever direction she sets. One scene pushes this idea even further, showing Meghan calmly managing Harry like he's an intern trying to keep up. While he struggles and fumbles through situations, she stays composed, focused, and completely in control. That contrast is sharp, and it's exactly what makes the scene stand out so much. The puppet version of Meghan might appear polished and composed on the surface, but underneath it all, she's portrayed as the mastermind behind everything. Every move they've made since stepping away from royal duties is shown as part of a bigger strategy. Every decision feels calculated, every action feels intentional. And Harry, he's there, but not as a leader. Not as someone in control, just someone following along through everything that happens. Whether that reflects reality or not, the parody makes sure that's the image it leaves behind, showing Meghan as the one who's been orchestrating every move since they left the UK. This whole situation doesn't just land as a joke, it hits like a reality check that people recognise but don't always say out loud. The dynamic between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry isn't just something created for laughs. It reflects a perception that's been building quietly in the background for a long time. People see it, people talk about it in private, but very few actually come out and admit it directly. And that's exactly why this parody hits so hard, because it brings that unspoken tension right into the spotlight where nobody can ignore it anymore. Meghan isn't just portrayed as a partner standing side by side in this relationship. She's shown as the one leading every move, the one calling every shot, the one setting the direction. Meanwhile, Harry is painted as the passive figure, the one who follows along, almost like he's been pulled into a life he didn't fully map out himself. The sketch doesn't gently tease their marriage. It completely dismantles the idea that they operate as equals. It exaggerates the imbalance in a way that feels bold, loud, and impossible to overlook. Meghan holds the control in this portrayal, and Harry is reduced to someone reacting instead of deciding, moving instead of leading. One of the most striking parts of Spitting Image's take is how it frames them as rebels who supposedly broke free from the royal system. In the sketches, they position themselves like fighters for freedom, like people escaping something oppressive to live a better, more private life. But at the same time, the show highlights how they continue to profit from their story at every turn, and that contrast is where the satire really bites. It's not just funny, it's sharp, and it forces people to look at the situation from a different angle. The irony is impossible to miss. The show doesn't just hint at it, it completely tears it apart. Harry's puppet complains about being trapped in a system that gave him privilege from birth, including fame, wealth, and global recognition. At the same time, Meghan's puppet presents herself as empowered and independent, while still being closely tied to royal titles and high-profile appearances that keep her connected to that same system. That contradiction becomes the center of the joke, and it's pushed hard. What makes the satire hit even deeper is how it cuts through their narrative of rebellion. It suggests that what's being presented as a fight for freedom might actually be something more calculated, something shaped for public image rather than pure intention. The sketches lean into the idea that their story has become a product, something packaged and presented in a way that keeps attention flowing and interest growing. That's where the real commentary sits, not just in the jokes, but in what those jokes are pointing toward. The couple often speaks about stepping away from the monarchy, but the parody raises the question of whether they've really stepped away at all, because every move, from major media deals to public appearances, seems to stay connected to that same royal identity. It creates this feeling that instead of escaping the system, they might be reshaping it into something new, something built around their own brand and influence. And that idea is pushed hard throughout the sketch. It becomes clear that the show isn't just making random jokes, it's building a narrative of its own. One where Meghan and Harry aren't escaping anything, but instead building a new version of the same structure, just under their own control. A new kind of empire driven by media attention, personal storytelling, and constant visibility. That's the angle the satire leans into, and it doesn't hold back while doing it. The parody also takes aim at the way they present themselves as victims of the system. While that narrative is part of their story, the show highlights how their continued presence in the spotlight seems to contradict it, because instead of stepping away from attention, they appear more visible than ever. Every project, every appearance, every deal keeps them right in the center of public conversation. At one point, the chaotic background audio like "Don't touch the food," "Don't taste the food drive on the road," "I'm sorry, rowdy, ready?" adds to the exaggerated madness of it all. It creates this sense of confusion and noise that mirrors how overwhelming their media presence can feel. It's messy, it's loud, and it adds to the overall tone of controlled chaos that the parody is building. In the end, the so-called royal rebels are shown as two people trying to navigate a moment they can't escape. No matter how much they talk about stepping away, they remain tied to the same spotlight they claim to want distance from. And that's where the satire really lands, showing that their story isn't as simple as breaking free. It's far more complicated than that. If there's one thing the show captures perfectly, it's their constant connection to attention. Even when they talk about privacy, their actions seem to keep them in the public eye. Instead of fading away, they've created a new space where they remain visible, relevant, and constantly discussed. It's not withdrawal, it's repositioning. The puppet versions push this idea even further. Meghan is shown as someone always planning the next move, always thinking about the next project, the next appearance, The next headline. At the same time, Harry is portrayed as someone still searching for direction, trying to keep up while everything moves around him. That contrast creates a strong image that sticks with viewers. What the show really highlights is the contradiction at the center of their story. They speak about stepping away from the system, but their actions continue to connect them to it. Whether it's through streaming deals, interviews, or other media projects, they remain part of the same cycle they claim to have left behind. The puppets make this idea clear without holding back. They present a version of Meghan and Harry that thrives on attention, even while claiming to reject it. And that contradiction becomes the driving force behind the satire. It's not just about humor, it's about pointing out the gap between words and actions. The show strips away the polished image and replaces it with something more exaggerated, but still rooted in perception. It shows a cycle where every attempt to reshape their story ends up reinforcing the same ideas they're trying to move away from. That's what makes the satire feel sharp, because it keeps circling back to that same contradiction again and again. In one standout moment, Meghan's puppet is shown focusing heavily on her personal brand, carefully shaping how everything looks and feels. Meanwhile, Harry's puppet struggles to keep up, moving through situations awkwardly and reacting rather than leading. That contrast builds on the idea of imbalance and keeps pushing it forward. The parody also suggests that their attempt to leave royal life didn't remove pressure, it just changed the form of it. Instead of traditional expectations, they now face constant public scrutiny in a different way. Every move is analysed, every decision is discussed, and every appearance becomes part of a larger narrative. What Spitting Image really emphasises is the shift from structured royal life to a different kind of spotlight, one driven by media, branding, and public attention. And in that shift, the need for validation seems to grow even stronger. Whether it's through major deals or constant visibility, the spotlight never really fades. They present themselves as activists and storytellers, but the satire questions whether those roles are fully separate from the brand they've built, because every step forward seems to connect back to the same cycle of attention and exposure. It creates a loop that feels hard to break. The show doesn't just mock, it highlights. It points to the idea that the Sussex brand is built as much on image as it is on message. Through documentaries, books, and carefully timed appearances, everything feeds into that same narrative structure. And that's where the satire lands its final punch. It shows them caught in a loop of self-presentation, unable to fully step away from the attention they claim to resist. Their legacy, once tied to the royal family, is now tied to something else entirely. A brand shaped by contradiction, attention, and constant reinvention. And yes, Spitting Image absolutely delivers that message with sharp-cutting humour that doesn't miss. They may have stepped away from royal duties, but as the parody shows, the spotlight never really left them. Whether they wanted distance or not, they're still right in the centre of it all. Now, if you made it this far, you already know this breakdown went deep. So go ahead and hit that like button if this had you thinking. Drop a comment and let it be known what you really think about all this. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust, the next breakdown gets even wilder and you're not going to want to miss it.